you think short deck will ever take off from golf? Not
anytime you change the game, some neat stuff can happen, and sometimes you do that and the new game has issues, so it doesn't work out great. But short deck I think has a lot of cool stuff, and I mean I think me and you had talked about this before that first ever short deck tournament you won. You remember that?
I do.
I gave you about 2 minutes of advice, like I don't know, don't fold weird spots. You got to.
And I played horrific. Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's not that hard to be just a moderate dog in short deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important because it makes for a good gambling game.
For sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's already doing really well in Asia. I think it's starting to take off some in the West.
Can like have this out, or obviously you can do whatever you want, but like people, like you're considered one of the top 3 to 5 short deck players in the world. Like, everybody says that, you know, does the game speak to you, or have you just kind of put the time in, or, I mean, obviously just all across the board, you're a legend, but like short deck people talk about you like you're like a savant or something. What do you attribute that to? I mean,
I was playing short deck before any pros, so there was a time I was way ahead of everyone just because no pros had spent the time on it. I've been working on it for 2 years and at big stakes. Now, actually, I haven't played much short deck the last 6 months, so I don't know. You know, probably 6 months ago,
your PLO background helps, right?
Yeah,
conceptualizing certain, I don't know, I feel like you have to get it in more in PLO. At least you have that, you accept that it needs to happen sometimes.
Yeah. And I would say for a while, till probably about a year ago, a lot of people were thinking about the game. There were a few who had an idea, but a lot were, a year and a half ago.
Small example of like a commonly misapplied sort of concept?
You'd have people who clearly studied, right? They probably did some solver work, this kind of stuff. And then they'd go play a live game. And it would go raise, call. And their brains would just melt.
Right.
And they'd be closing the action with a pretty decent hand. And especially if you're in position or like one of the better positions post-flop and short deck, you just shouldn't be folding much there. And you would have all kinds of pros in those games folding hands where it's just like, this is most of your earn in this game. Right. What are you doing? It's like, unless you got Jack-6 offsuit, man, like you should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's one. There was a lot of stuff like that where just like intuitive spots that were clearly worth a bunch people would miss because they were new to the game. And so they had studied and stuff how to play a certain style, but when someone would do something weird, they would miss really high value spots. That was a common thing.
And there's been a lot of questions about like your approach to the game, and I mean, I guess that's the case across the board a lot in poker, that people are very polished in certain spots, but then you've always been very flexible with your thinking. You're not scared to like, you've been out there at times doing things that like no one else is doing. How do you just really believe in yourself as like a games player, or I mean, you're obviously a very bright guy, but like, it's a genuine question. Like, it's not that easy to be willing to look stupid or whatever. Do you just not care what people kind of think? I mean, you know, you're sort of a mystery.
I guess I try not to. I mean, I'm sure I don't always succeed. Like, you heard me moaning, I don't know when this is coming out, but you heard me moaning about that hand versus Bryn on high stakes, where I did something a little goofy and then was like, oh man, what was I thinking? You know, I feel like an idiot. But I don't know, I think I try to admit my mistakes and catch them, and I think it gives me some space to kind of make more of them. And sometimes, and obviously if you're playing no limit, where now a lot of people's games are quite polished, this kind of stuff doesn't come up that much because it's more, you're looking at pretty similar scenarios hand over hand.
True, but you play a lot of games that are 1,000 big blinds deep or more, which is still a bit the Wild West. There's still a lot of spice. Yeah. Like, so how has your play style changed since the first high stakes? I mean, it's been 10 years, so from the big Dwan. Has your play style changed since the first run of high stakes?
So I would say you're saying I do a bit of crazy or unconventional stuff, and I think that's true.
Sure.
And plenty of times I get it wrong, but I think I have often a guess. A lot of times it's not that far off of kind of where I stand. And the first high stakes, I felt like I had a lot of room. Basically, I was just knew more, and a lot of spots was a bit better than a lot of people. It was lucky timing for me, and I was able to do more goofy shit. And now, man, a lot of these guys are studying a lot of them are quite good. Even if deep stack's a little different, there's just not as much room. You kind of got to stay in line a little more when people are you're
Fair.
playing people that are better. You can't do as much crazy shit. This was true for me in short deck also. I had a run in short deck where I was able to get away with murder just because people didn't understand the game. So I was able to do all kinds of goofy stuff, and they didn't realize, oh, clearly Tom's doing this. you know?
Yeah.
I remember actually, you know that Timothy?
Yeah, of course.
He was like the first guy to really start catching some of those. I was like, damn it, I can't do all my short deck tricks
Right.
anymore when Timothy's in the game.
He actually told me that you're excellent. Like years ago, we were talking about short deck. He's like, "No, Tom, very good. Maybe study. Maybe he make program or something to look at." I'm like, "I don't know, bro."